You mentioned that he worked with Butch and then with Hank and now with Sean Foley, and he's obviously parted ways, fired, left, whatever you might say. You've had the same thing happen to you with Nick Faldo, with Sevi, you've just talked about.
Sure.
You've kind of got to have a thick skin.
You have to. Listen, man, if you take everything personally, and look, things get stale. Look, when you get married, you normally, unless you get divorced, you're married for life through thick or thin. But hey, nothing goes perfectly over, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And, sometimes people need a different approach. But
it must be tough, nevertheless.
It's tough, yeah.
The Faldo breakup for you.
Yeah, that was difficult.
Everything that you went through together, and you did so well together. You kind of, not belittling what happened with Nick Price, right, but Faldo and Leadbetter, kind of went together.
It did, yeah. We had a great 13 years together. I always kid, I hope he doesn't watch this show, but I was a kid. I say our relationship lasted longer than his 3 marriages. That was pretty good, but we honestly, I have to say,
it's lasted longer than mine both as well.
Okay,
so far.
Sorry, Dan.
But I'm still working on the second one.
Okay, there we go. But we had a really good relationship, but we didn't really have a crossword. Nick, if you know Nick, away from golf, he's a very different character to when he was around golf. Because I always remember a couple of years ago at St Andrews, where, we split up in 1998. But when I was with Ernie, he was playing with Ernie, and Ernie said, "Man, look." He's not the same. He's still the same guy on the golf course. And Nick was just playing obviously he was playing the Open because he wanted to play in the Open. It's not because he felt he was going to contend, but he still had that same, when Nick got around the golf course, it was just him, just very focused, very centered, very hard on himself, he always said, "Oh, I wish I could have been different on the golf course." He wouldn't have been successful if he was different. He had the sort of the Hogan mentality. He was blocked everything else. I always remember, I was working with Ian Baker Finch, and when Nick won the Open at St Andrews in 1990, and they got drawn together in the last round, and I said, "Finchy," I said, "don't expect Nick to watch you hit one shot, to say good shot." I said, you won't even be there as far as he's concerned." And he's at the end of the round, he said, "You're right. He didn't even know I was in the group. He was just so focused on his own game that listen. He made my career. I helped make his. I think to a certain extent. Through chemistry, through trials and tribulations. Obviously he became, one of the world's greatest players. And so, but and he was an ideal student. The guy was just so focused on trying to, on getting it right and knowing what right was, being able to control the flight of the ball. His whole goal originally was to win the Open. And when I first, I remember seeing Nick. We played up at Victoria Falls, way back when. I remember when, people used to leave boxes on the tees there. I know you said in Italy people ran out of golf balls, but they did that at Elephant Hills as well, I remember. But I remember seeing Nick, because he was, I think he sort of was very friendly with George Bloomberg, and I think Warren Humphreys was like his minder, if I remember, and Nick was playing, I think he just turned pro. He was probably 18 or 19, and sort of his first foray into professional golf. And I remember at the time thinking, well, this guy's got this long willowy swing, and he didn't flight the ball very well. I remember watching him at Augusta in a practice round, play with Nick and Frosty or somebody, and he hit these shots, these spinny shots with the driver, where the ball literally would pitch and come backwards. And I just thought, well, he's going to find a tough time winning the Open if there's any wind around. And so, sure enough, what we worked on obviously was trajectory, trying to get a more penetrating ball flight, and his swing changed a lot, and it really, and he was very generous in his praise for me and what we did. In the beginning, it was, until he started to play well. I was sort of the ogre, I suppose, as far as British golf was concerned. Who's this guy, messing up Nick Faldo? Had already won the Order of Merit, and he'd won Harbour Town in 1984. We started working in 85, but 87, it was funny. We said, hey, a couple of years. This is going to take a couple of years. And if you really want to get this right, you've got to be patient. And he, all credit to him, boy, he stuck to it. And even though he went through a lot of hard times, nearly lost his card here. I remember Disney was the last tournament of the year. He had to play well, make the cut, and finish reasonably high up to keep his card even. But all credit to him. And I say it was a wonderful experience. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Over the years, you've been teaching now for what, 30 odd years?
Longer.
Over the years,
40 years now.
There must have been some really funny instances on the lesson team.
I always remember with Gavin Levinson, with Gavin, Gavin's petrified as snakes. It actually was just after a lesson with Gavin, and he calls me up and says, hey, listen, because he was staying in one of the condos. We used to stay at this resort called Greenleaf, which is actually not far from where we are right now, funny enough. This is where Andy Beans hang out, And so he said, hey, listen, I just opened the door and there's a snake on my doorstep. What do I do? So I said, well, hang on. Yeah, I'll call up the security and they'll come around. And they came around and they killed the snake, and so he was all happy, So I said, okay, everything's clear now. And I thought, no, hang on. And I had this big rubber snake, So I went and put it back on his doorstep again, So he was coming out because they've got to lunch or something, him and Penny and the kids, and he opened the door there and he jumped back there, knocked Penny for sex there, and he calls you, hey, I've got another snake here, I said, go and stand on there, Gav. I think you'll find it's made of rubber, But no, listen. I remember the time where my assistant there, was his birthday. We brought in a woman who was a belly dancer, and we sort of put him on the tee, or put her on the tee there with him, But I've been knocked out on the tee. I was knocked out once by a guy, he sort of swung back and knocked me out. And so I don't know what I would have loved to have seen his face, because there I am sort of lying, prostrate on the tee there, And actually, I got hit I was standing behind a woman and I got hit by her. Can you imagine standing behind somebody, watching her hit in this direction, and I'm standing behind her, and because, if you stand behind, you think you're safe. You stand maybe this side, you might, they might pipe it or something and hit you. But so she actually missed the ball, and on her follow-through, she came back down, and it was the best shot she hit all day. It hit me right in the knee, so I collapsed there. Let's see what else. There was some, I'd have to think back on some of the things. Listen, my life it's been a lot of fun. To me, it's never been a job to me, this. It's just been like a hobby, a passion, a love, and I think back to, years gone by and all the people that I've met and had the opportunities. As I say, look, would I have rather been a player? If I had to be honest, I'd say, yeah, sure. But as look, as great a player as you were, you know how tough it is. You played over here, and look at Bobby Cole. There's a guy where you look at that guy, you think that guy cannot miss. And there's no way. And as great a ball striker he was, and as much success as he had in South Africa, and I know he won one tournament over here, but you just can never tell. And you look at other players and you think, now how does if you look at an American player like a Fred Funk, here's a guy who you sort of look at and say, yeah, he's okay. But the guy's won millions out here, and you just never can tell really, what constitutes, somebody's ability to really play at that very top level.
It's a very nice way to finish, because you mentioned Bobby Cole, the most beautiful golf swing. You look at somebody like Louis Oosthuizen, a beautiful golf swing. Gene Littler, beautiful golf swing. Sam Snead, beautiful golf swing. And then you get the effective swings like Trevino, Hogan, and a number of others. Right. Just go through the swings that you admire, and the swings that, if you could, take and give them to people. Okay. Whose swings would they be and why?
Well, listen, I've had the good fortune to work for many years with Ernie. Listen, you don't get a more natural swinger and great ball striker than Ernie. He's probably the modern day Sam Snead. When I look at Ernie, obviously in the modern era, if I go to any clinic and I say to people, listen, if you could buy a golf swing, who would you like to buy? 90% of people say Ernie Els, without a doubt. A couple of people say VJ. Not too many takers on Jim Furyk, funny enough, but I really love Jack Nicklaus's swing. I just thought that, especially look at his younger years. Obviously his swing has changed a lot just through the fact that he doesn't move as well as he used to. But a very powerful golf swing. I still think that, honestly, that Hobday had one of the best simple swings around ever. Because of shortness. If you look at Ben Hogan, I wrote a book on Ben Hogan because we were very fortunate to find the photographs that they took of Ben Hogan to do all the artist drawings, So And so, I love Fred Couples' swing. I mean, to me, the elasticity that he has, it's just incredible. I mean, and how far has that guy hit it? And he doesn't hit any shorter now than 25 years ago. It's incredible. And just the strike of the ball, and that's the thing, the strike. And to say, Lee Trevino, that ball striking, that when I watched him, I sat on the practice tee and watched him strike shots. It was just like, the sound, Okay, a lot of people don't realize. Okay, I'm going to give you a trivia question here. Who was the straightest hitter in the history of the game, say, in the last 30 years?
Calvin Pete.
Absolutely, you got it right. And most people don't even realize that. Do you realize that guy hit between 78 and 85% of the fairways? With
a gammy arm.
With a gammy arm, he wasn't that long. When people used to speak about Bobby Favre, he was a straight hitter too.
But of course, you know what Nicholas said to Bobby Favre? If I used a 5-iron off the tee, I'd also hit all the fairways.
That's right, exactly. But Calvin Pete, you just look at his action there. Beautiful. Through the ball, unbelievable the way he planed the club through impact. He's one of my heroes because and he didn't actually know what he did. That's the amazing thing, as you listen to a little instructional video by him, it's just like, well, the ball position's most important, nothing else about his swing, purely natural, And so, the game is, it's produced so many great characters, it's, when you look at the great players from Southern Africa, they should be so proud of their heritage. You look at, just look at the players of the past and the Bobby Locks and, going, the Harold Hennings and, going all the Henning brothers and you're going on, right through up until today, with Louis and Charles and all these great, Brandon Grace now taking over the mantle. And, golf's in good hands in that part of the world.
There it was, Vincent winning the French Open 1976. When we saw this in the newspapers, we could not believe. All black people, I think, in this country were jumping sky high that we've got one of us winning a golf tournament.